Good evening. Welcome to the 21st Century Community Education Forum. This is our third annual event, and we're going to raise the house lights just slightly because I know we do have a few folks that are finding their seats here. That's perfect. Thank you very much to our fantastic students that are helping us this evening. So glad to have so many of you here with us this evening as we really celebrate community engagement. It's a very critical part of what makes our district so great. And so by having this event, we really hope to provide you with an opportunity to come together, collaborate with our district administrators, our governing board, and other parents and community members around issues that really are important for advancing the Peoria Unified School District. So a big thank you to each of you for being here with us this evening. My name is Danielle Airy, and I am the district's director for public relations. So pleased to welcome you here to Centennial High School. They have been such wonderful hosts for us. If we could please give the Centennial staff and students who are helping us this evening a round of applause. Thank you, and we'll go ahead and keep those house lights up just a tad. Thank you so much. I also want to give a special welcome to those who we have joining us online this evening. You know, we do stream this event live from our district's website for those who are unable to attend in person. You can certainly tune in by going to the district's website, follow along for this evening's Community Engagement Forum. Before we move along in our agenda, I do want to recognize some very special guests that we have here with us this evening. We're very pleased to have Representative Debbie Lesko here with us this evening. Thank you, Mrs. Lesko, for being here. Also, our wonderful governing board has joined us this evening. Our president, Mr. Hal Borhauer. Our governing board clerk, Mr. Joe McCord. Governing board member, Mr. Matt Bullock. Governing board member, Mrs. Kathy Connect. And governing board member, Mrs. Tracy Livingston. Also our superintendent, who you'll hear from momentarily, Dr. Denton Santarelli. As well as our deputy superintendent, Dr. Heather Cruz. We have countless other administrators, principals, assistant principals here with us tonight, and they are here to help support our parents and community members and also to help facilitate some of the breakout sessions, which is really where we will capture all of that wonderful feedback that you'll be providing to us this evening. I want to just kind of briefly walk through the agenda that we have for you tonight. And hopefully you can see that up on the screen. In just a few moments, I will invite our superintendent, Dr. Santarelli, up to share with you what I liken to really a state of the district update. And I know he has some really important things to share with you about what's new and what's happening in the Peoria Unified School District. From there, I'll give you some brief instructions on participating in our breakout sessions. And those will take place back out where you entered in the cafeteria. Those were the balloons that you saw when you came in. So I'll give you some further instructions on that portion in just a few moments. We'll spend some time in each of those breakout sessions, and then what we'll do at the conclusion is come back into our auditorium, and our governing board will be joining along with Dr. Santarelli and Dr. Cruz in a panel discussion where we'll be able to take your questions, address any concerns, and provide some additional information to you straight from our governing board members and our superintendent and deputy superintendent. A couple key points that I will leave you with before I invite Dr. Santarelli up. For those who are streaming this event live, when we move to our breakout sessions, you will have an opportunity to also participate electronically. So even though you're not here in person to be a part of our breakout sessions, we do have facilitators that will be online through our WebEx portion, and they will be able to guide you through that exact same process that those who are here with us in person will be participating in. So we're very pleased to provide that opportunity to the community who has joined us online. Without any further ado, I'm going to invite our superintendent up. I know he has just a couple brief slides to walk through with you and to share a little bit more about what is going on here in the Peoria Unified School District. Dr. Santarelli.
Well, thank you, Danielle, and thanks to all of you You know, these are your schools that we have the privilege of operating, and we certainly serve to the standards that you have set for us as a school district. And I can tell you, having been associated with this district for an awfully long time, we take it very seriously, and we greatly value the direction and feedback that you provide us. And the sole focus for this evening's event is for us to really provide you opportunity to continue to give us direction and thinking around several areas, and we'll talk more about those. Before I do so, I want to start with really what we're all about. You know, we opened our doors just a short couple weeks ago to the beginning of another school year, and I can tell you that without exception, that first day of school is just an exciting time. It's a time where people are looking forward to meeting classmates, to meeting teachers. Our teachers and staff spent countless hours preparing for that opening day to make sure that it is just right. We know we only have one chance at first impressions, and so we take it very seriously. This is what we're about, and we're very proud of what we do. The other thing I'd like to point out on this slide and make mention of something that has developed over the course of several years. As you may or may not know, we have a wonderful partnership with the City of Peoria as well as the City of Glendale. We have about 2/3 of our schools in the City of Peoria and a little over 1/3 of our schools in the City of Glendale. We, as of a couple of years ago, were fortunate enough to provide school resource officers on each of our high school campuses in the City of Peoria. And this would not have been possible without the support of the city, and we do share the expense of that with the City of Peoria. And just this year, after lots of hard work on behalf of the City of Glendale and the school district, we're able to offer school resource officers at our Glendale schools. This has never been done before. We've had school resource officers in the distant past at some of our schools that were tied to grants and that sort of thing, but it certainly serves as a model of cooperation and support, and certainly an emphasis on what we're trying to do to help our young people and to provide safety for all. So I know we have some of our resource officers here this evening. You get a chance to interact with them. We also have Chief Mentor here, and I saw him earlier. I don't know if Chief Mentor of City of Peoria. Thank you, Chief, for all your support. I don't know if Chief Black has arrived yet, but she will be joining us as well. And I saw Commander Lively with Glendale. Commander Lively, are you? There he is. Thank you, Commander. So that's certainly something that we're very excited about, and we're appreciative of the support that we received from both the City of Glendale and the City of Peoria. This is also a number that we are very proud of, and those of you that have heard me speak in the past know that without exception I take every opportunity to tout our graduation rate. I will tell you that this rate is up from 93% a year ago to 94%. Most of you are probably aware that the national... Most of you are probably aware of the fact that the national graduation rate hovers around 70%, as does the state of Arizona. And so we're extremely proud of the support from our community and the hard work of our staff to continue to have a graduation rate that is unparalleled and certainly stands out nationally. This is another topic that I won't spend a whole lot of time on, but I will tell you that as we have been through some challenging economic times in the past, we continue to look at ways to be as efficient as possible, and we continue to look at ways to garner more resources for our students and for our schools. Last year, we did submit to the federal Race to the Top grant application. And I was very pleased that we were a finalist nationally. We were amongst a handful of districts that were selected as finalists. It was a near miss, so we weren't selected to receive the grant, but this year we are reapplying. They've let us know that there is a second round of Race to the Top, and we are aggressively pursuing that opportunity, and there are significant dollars that could be associated with that. And our grant is due the first part of October, and the totals that are surrounding that are somewhere around $30 million. So significant money, but certainly indicative of not just the quality and the support that we have in this district, but of our efforts to continue to bring in additional resources. We'll keep you apprised of that work. The other one that I'll mention is this whole effort around Common Core, and I'm sure that those of you that are here this evening have heard of this. This is a national effort that really was initiated by governors across the country. We are really going through a monumental shift in not just what we teach, but how we teach it and how we assess it. And so you will hear more and more about Common Core as we ramp up our efforts. The assessments that are surrounding Common Core are going to drive change, and we are certainly looking at continuing our efforts to accept this challenge of this transition. We will be putting additional information on our website for parents if they want to know more about what's going on, particular to grade levels and the changes in curriculum, particular to supports for parents as they try to address these challenges. We're certainly making those available on our website, and we'll continue to keep you updated as that landscape changes. What we don't know yet is how will this change graduation requirements. You're aware that currently our students have to pass the Ames test in order to be promoted from high school. And with the changes to the Common Core, there is a lot of conversation about assessment that will change. This is the last year for Ames. Those students that are currently freshmen will be held to a different graduation requirement, and we're certainly working closely with the state and State Board of Education to ascertain what that will look like for students moving forward. But we'll communicate that as broadly as we can as we know that information. Also, a big thank you to our community. You know, we're entrusted with your support. We're entrusted with your most precious possession, if you will, and that's your children. And along with that, we've enjoyed support in a number of ways, not just from your presence at meetings like this, but last year in the fall, we went out for a bond election. That was really the first time in our district's history that we were asking our community to approve a bond that did not tie to the construction of new schools. It was focused really in two areas: the maintenance and upgrading of our facilities, and also technology. And you'll certainly hear more about technology this evening, and we're going to be asking you to weigh in on some critical factors about how technology should shape the future of education. Thanks to the passage of the bond, we are aggressively on a campaign to provide wireless internet accessibility every classroom across the district, and of course that's going to be the cornerstone of having students being more involved with mobile devices, and certainly the connection with what's happening in the classrooms is significant. So thanks for your ongoing support, the passage of the bond. It's also very important to us and our governing board particularly that we are very transparent with not only what those monies were authorized for, but when and how they're being expended. And you can directly access that on any given day on our portal. I think it's called Transparency. You click on the link and you can go to any school. You go to Centennial High School, you can look at all of the projects that were slated for Centennial High School, the timeline for which they will be implemented, and so on. I'll also thank you because in putting together that bond program, we actively solicited the input of parents and site councils along with building administration putting together those plans. So that information is there on our website, and we thank you for your ongoing support. Another thing that is new for us, we have not built a new school for a number of years, and we actually broke ground on our 33rd elementary school just last week. It's located just south of Liberty High School, and we're excited that we're able to provide additional opportunities for that segment of our community and provide some relief to some overcrowded schools in that area. The timeline is that will be open for students next fall. You'll get to see a lot more as that work continues, an innovative learning space, and we're looking forward to that being open for students. With that, I'm going to stop and turn this program back over to Mrs. Airy, if I can see her. I know she has some specifics for you as far as direction. I think she's right here. She's always there ahead of me. So anyway, here's Mrs. Airy, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Santarelli. I think at this time we are going to move on to our breakout session. So for those of you who are joining us online, what you're going to do is go back to the district's homepage of our website at peoriaud.k12.az.us. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the link to Community Education Forum. So you'll want to click on that link and follow those instructions so that you can get on and join our online breakout sessions. For those of you who have joined us here in the audience, we're going to get ready to head back out into the auditorium. And let me explain to you just briefly what the color means that you have on the name tag that you should have received when you came in today. That color, and it should be either red, green, or blue, indicates the breakout session where you will begin this evening. So if you have a red sticker, you will begin at strategic plan. Those are the red balloons that are on the tables in the cafeteria. Green, you will go to a technology table, and then blue, you will go to a safety table. Now, if you didn't get your favorite color, no worries. You'll be able to attend all 3 sessions this evening. So that is something that is a little bit new. In the past, if you've attended this event before, you selected the breakout session you would attend, and that would be the only session you would participate in. This evening, you'll be participating in all 3 sessions. So you will spend about 20 minutes in each of those sessions. And we do have a facilitator that is at each of those tables that will greet you and that will give you some directions on facilitating a conversation around strategic plan, technology, and safety. There will also be a note taker at your table that will be capturing all of that information. So we want to make sure that the note taker collects all of that. It will go back to us, and then of course we will be able to use that information as we are making future decisions that impact our schools, our students, our staff, and of course ultimately impact our communities. So with that, I am going to dismiss you to head out to the cafeteria and to those breakout sessions, and we'll see you back here shortly. Welcome back to the conclusion of our Community Education Forum. I know there were some wonderful conversations taking place out in the cafeteria, and I know many of those we did have to cut a little short to get you through all of the rotations, but certainly I do hope that you were able to share some valuable feedback. I hope that our facilitators were able to capture all of that, and of course we will be archiving all of it to share back with you and with our community for in the future. We are going to move into the question and answer portion of this evening, and before we do so, I want to make sure that I let you know that we have a half sheet you should have received when you walked in. It had the agenda on one side. On the other side, there are some questions. If you have any additional feedback that you were unable to provide at your Q&A session, please do take a moment to complete that half sheet. You can turn it into any of the students. They're from the National Junior Honor Society here helping us this evening from Centennial, so you can give them your half sheet, or you can give them to any of our wonderful PR team that you see walking around who has been helping us out and making sure everything went so smoothly with the event this evening. So I do encourage you to take a brief moment to do that. As we move into this Q&A session, I do want to share some things with you to make sure we can go through this in a rather smooth manner. We have an opportunity for those of you who have joined us in person this evening to come up to either microphone that we have here in the aisles. And when I turn to you, if you would please just begin by stating your name before you move forward and ask your question. We do ask that you keep questions to about 2 minutes to be respectful of others in the audience who may want an opportunity to speak. And then we do have some questions that we have collected through social media, so Facebook and Twitter. And if you are sitting in the audience and don't want to come up to the microphone, you can certainly tweet us at Peoria Unified 11, and you can include the hashtag Peoria Ed Forum, and we'll be sure to get that question, and we will do our best to get to the majority of them this evening. Certainly those that we do not have time for, we will be sure to respond and include that in the portion that we post on the website. We want to be respectful of your time this evening, so we do have a commitment that we will be concluding no later than 8 o'clock this evening. We know that everybody is very busy, and certainly it is a school night after all, so we want to make sure we get you home in time for that. So without any further ado, for those in the audience, I'll invite you to make your way up to the microphone if you'd like to do so. And I'll begin by introducing the panel that we have here with us. We did introduce them earlier, but now, in case you couldn't see them, hopefully you can put a face with the name. We have here Superintendent Dr. Denton Santarelli, our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Heather Cruz, Governing Board President, Mr. Hal Borhauer, Governing Board Member, Mrs. Kathy Knecht, Governing Board Member, Mr. Matt Bullock, Governing Board Member, Mrs. Tracy Livingston, and last but certainly not least, our Governing Board Clerk, Mr. Joe McCord. So how about a big welcome for all of them for joining us. And to those in the audience who may be shy making their way up to the microphone, don't worry, I have a couple of questions of my own. So I have a couple of questions I'm going to toss out to our governing board, and we have a few that have already come in over social media. So I will ask a couple of our governing board members to maybe weigh in on this first question, then I have a second question as maybe a follow-up to many of the others. So I'm actually going to begin with our governing board president and put him on the hot seat here since he is the closest governing board member to me here. But I want to ask if maybe you could weigh in. I know that there are a lot of different ways that our governing board members are involved outside of what you do, not just in your day job and as your participation on our governing board, but many outside organizations that you participate in to stay current, up to date on what's going on with education, really around the state and around the nation. And I thought maybe you, and we'll go to you next, Mrs. Knecht afterward, if maybe you could weigh in a little bit on some of those efforts, how you participate, and make sure not just Peoria Unified, but education stays at the forefront.
Well, I'll start, but I want to start by, let's give a shout out to our Peoria Student Broadcast Network students. These are students in our high school that are putting this on the internet live. It's the second year of this program, and it started last year, I think, just at Liberty and at a little maybe at Centennial. And this year, I think it has Centennial, Liberty, and Kellis have students that are learning the broadcast from behind the camera and up in the booth. And it's a great program that the district has started, and we expect to expand it to all of our schools. But how do we stay abreast? The governing board members around the state have an organization called the Arizona School Boards Association. They put on training seminars to teach us keep us in compliance with things like open meeting law, so that we're not 3 or 4 of us making decisions behind the scenes. We can't do that. All of our decisions have to be made in public. They give us training on new laws and things that happen, educational things. We share amongst each other programs that we use that are successful. On a national level, one of our patron tours received a national award we do that 3 times a year. So we'll have in the coming fall, we'll have a patron tour where you'll be able to come with administration and some board members, and we will tour a high school and an elementary school campus. And if you're my age, you'll realize there's a lot more going on than when I was in school. So there's national training that you can get done at the National School Boards Association meeting, and then the local training at the Arizona School Board Association.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Borhauer. And I recently, this year was...
I want to interrupt you for one moment, Mrs. Knecht. I'm not sure if your mic is on, so I'm going to see if they can have you try one more time.
Check.
And if not, maybe we can just borrow Mr. Borhauer's.
Now I can hear it.
Now we can hear you. There we go.
This year I was elected to be the secretary of the Arizona School Boards Association, and so I thank you for saying the great things about that organization. The training they do when you first come on the board is really critical. I remember one of the things they taught us is, remember when you're making a decision for your school board that you're affecting the lives of so many people. and many of them are young children. And they told us to imagine that there's a child sitting and watching you make those decisions. And I've always taken that to heart, how important those decisions are and how they affect other people. My day job is with a nonprofit adult education program for leaders in the community. So I'm very in tune to what's going on in the community. And I've also dedicated quite a bit of my life to parent advocacy for public schools. I'm very happy. I'd like to introduce you to Amanda Duff, by the way. Amanda, if you'll stand up. She is taking the reins of the Peoria Unified Parent Council. And the mission of that organization is to help parents be knowledgeable and engaged in the issues that may be beyond what's happening at your local school site, and how you can be engaged and informed in the big decisions that are being made maybe at the legislature or even at the federal level. So Amanda is working very hard to get that organization up and running again. And recently I've been engaged with the Arizona Superintendents Association has a parent advocacy group. I really think that parents are always the very best advocates for their kids, and we want to hear your voice. That's why opportunities like tonight are so critical to the success of our school district. And I really embrace any opportunity that we have to hear what you have to say and be responsive to what you want for your kids.
Thank you, Mrs. Connect. One additional question, then I think we'll move on, and maybe I'll turn to you first, Mr. Bullock, if you'd like to weigh in on this one. But Mrs. Connect spoke in particular about parent groups and kind of some ways that parents can get involved at the district level. Maybe you can kind of piggyback on that and share a little bit about how it is that parents can get involved, how they can find information about the work of the board and what it is that the board does to conduct their business.
I think it's interesting this day and age. We always talk so much about technology. We just had one of our 3 tracks out there on technology. That same technology that excites our kids and will, leads to digital collaboration, digital learning, is also available to us parents. I have 3 kids. I'll go to Liberty. Sorry for being here, representing Liberty. But be that as it may, there is a wealth of information available. You talk about the technology part. Obviously, the district website has a myriad pages and pages of information on what to do. But let me just, I'm going to co-op your question here for a second. I would implore, I know when everyone's busy, I get that, I'm a parent too, I got my day job, got to put food on the table. I would really first congratulate all of you that are here, but I would implore all of you to please do the buddies system if you don't mind, and bring somebody to the next time we have this meeting. Bring somebody to the board meeting. On average, I know board meetings aren't exciting. It tends to get a little, we're thinking about offering pizza possibly to keep people to stay. But I understand it's not exciting, but so much happens at a board meeting, and we give opportunities for people to speak on any topic. You get 3 minutes to speak on something that you maybe want to have, that you have a problem with or a success with, or that you want to be involved with. But it really comes down to interacting and talking either by email to us on the board, interacting with an amazing website that really is chock full of information. And please, if you can just only do 1 meeting a quarter, please come to a board meeting and let us know what you think. Because on average, we have probably 3 or 4 people that stay for a full board meeting. And I know people are busy, I'm not saying it like that. But it really helps us to know what needs to be done. We talk to teachers and go to schools, but please get involved either by emailing us. If you just go to the website and click on governing board, there's all our funny little pictures, and you click on us to email directly. But please come to a meeting and let us know what's good, what needs improvement, and what we can do to progress towards being one of the top 10 districts in the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. And I want to make sure we don't forget Mrs. Livingston or Mr. McCord, if you have anything that you wanted to add to that in particular. If not, I'll throw you another one.
Are you skipping past Tracy?
No, I'm not at all. Either one of you want to weigh in on either of those? If not, I'll move on.
I'll go with Tracy.
Sure. Mrs. Livingston?
Do you want me to piggyback, or I'll
Sure.
take the next one?
Oh, sure. I'll toss another one out there for you.
Whoops, is this on?
Yes.
Okay, I just think everyone answered that quite well. I don't think there's anything further to say to that one.
I agree. And maybe, Mrs. Livingston, you could speak. I know that with your teaching experience, maybe you could talk a little bit for us about how parents can stay connected with what is going on in the classroom, some ways they can do to make sure they're staying involved in their child's education that way.
That's an easy one. And by the way, when we offer pizza, Matt will be paying. I just want to get that straight right now. Yes, well, yeah, we won't go there, but that's all right. Sorry. As parents, you are all busy, and to get you here tonight is amazing. to get you on different web pages. And again, the myriad of pages that we have is amazing. But it all starts with your little munchkins or big munchkins, wherever they may be in the educational spectrum. The first thing, back to teacher night, curriculum night. And if you have to miss one of those, and I'm sure most of you do not, if you're here tonight, you don't miss those things. The variety of functions that your school has to offer. Join the PTA. If it's called something else at your school, I apologize. Everybody seems to call it something different. But the parent-teacher organization, PTA, PTO. Help raise funds. Go in if you have time and volunteer. Read. Just read. You don't have to schlep and make my copies. I'm just kidding. If any of you want to, I'll give you my address. But I'm not asking you to do, manual labor. But, please go in and read to a child. Go in and speak when your children have a career day. Do anything that you can. And on the most basic level, please email your teacher. Please expect emails from your teacher. Please make sure the grading is up to date, and if not, contact, please. Talk to your children every night. What are they doing? If they slam the door on you, open it again in about an hour, and then still talk to your child, depending on the age. If they're 12, 13, or 14, maybe don't go there. But please, 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 it starts with the communication at home. Then it fosters on to the communication between you and the teacher, and then of course, past that, you and the principal and you and the school. It's truly an effort. It's a Herculean effort that teachers have today, and you are the most critical part of it. So please get involved in any way that you can.
Thank you,
Anything helps.
Thank you, Mrs. Livingston. Mr. McCord, anything to add?
I believe your original question was, what do we do other than being on the school board and attend board meetings? Wasn't that your original question?
Well, take it away.
All right, I'm going to run with it. We're going to start from the very, very large and then move inward. Been on board 5 years. 4 of those years, I've attended the National School Board Association conventions scattered around the country. The reason I go, it gives me a chance to talk to school board members all over the country. And we can talk about common problems, we can talk about uncommon problems that they have or we might have sooner or later. We talk about solutions to those problems. We attend all sorts of seminars on all sorts of different subjects. And I come away from them each time feeling, yes, charged, ready to go back and be an even better board member. Okay? For 5 years, I've been this board's delegate to the Arizona School Board Association. Kathy is the secretary. And I participated. In fact, one's coming up in about 10, 12 days, something like that. So I've attended those. This will be my 5th one, being a delegate. And like everybody else is there, I'm here to learn. I'm here to listen to other school board members from around the state. I'm here to listen to the presentations that the board makes. And then we talk about different issues. And sometimes we vote on, depends on what the issue is. So that's another thing I do. I'm getting a little bit more locally. I have a personal program where I try to spend a full day in every school. I'm retired, so I can do that. Spend a full day in every school in the district. Now I was going along great, really great, and then I had some spinal problems. So I had a little trouble walking, but I'm getting better, and once I feel, I don't want to fall down in the hallway someplace in school or in the classroom. Or once I feel better, I'll go back to the schools, those that I missed, and then maybe go back to the others that I did a long time ago and revisit them. I get there 7:40, 7:50 in the morning before the teachers get there. Work out with the principal, actually, they worked out in advance. Yeah, work out an agenda of which classrooms I will visit. I always tell them, I'm going to do core, but I also, if you've got a class that you're particularly proud of, I want to see that. And if you've got some doubt, don't hide it from me. Let me go into those. And then just maybe I'll pick something random and pop in. Now basically all I do is sit there at the rear of the room and listen. I take notes, but I'm not there to interrupt the teacher and interrupt teaching process. That's not my job. And I wouldn't do it under any circumstances.
Mr. McCord, I think you brought up a very important point in something that you just said, and you talked in particular about coming up with solutions, and I really loved that, what you said about that, and I know that that's collectively what you're all working very hard to do. And I want to make sure, just in the essence of time, that we have, if anyone that wants to come forward to the mic, and I see we do have someone, and I know Erin has a question in the back regarding social media. We do have someone standing right here, so I think we'll move to her if you're all comfortable with that, and then we'll go back to Erin, who has the question that came in via Facebook. So ma'am, if you wouldn't mind stating your first and last name, and we'll take your question.
Anyway, that's what I do.
Thank you. I'm Robin Cohen. I have 2 students at Heritage. I have a question about the bond and where the money is for refurbishing, because obviously Heritage is having issues with electricity, and we need a new transformer so that we can be sustainable and we can bring up the technology that we need. We have the computers, but I hear they're all in storage. So where is that in the bond issue?
Very great question. Dr. Santarelli?
I'd be glad to. Thank you. That's a wonderful question. And as I pointed out at the very beginning of the program, it's important to us that we are totally transparent. We entered into a process, and many of you helped us with this going back about 18 months or more, where we pushed out to every school opportunity to give us input on how we could spend monies and where the needs existed. And our site councils participated in that and gave us good feedback. In addition to that, we had a third-party facility audit of every campus, and you're specifically referencing Heritage. And that facility audit looked at things like electrical power, looked at things like air conditioning, roofing, flooring, and the such. From that, there's probably 3 binders that are this thick that are developed very specific to each site and how the money will be spent. And on our website is also a timeline. So you could go to the website, look at Heritage Elementary School, and you can see exactly where the dollars are going to flow in relationship to power, roofing, flooring, and that sort of thing. So off the top of my head, I can't tell you where Heritage is in that.
The website had zero money allocated to electricity.
It does. There are power issues there that have been identified. There are some roofing and structural issues that have been identified off the top of my head. And certainly this whole notion of technology is an integral part of what we're doing district-wide. As I mentioned at the beginning, and I know it's very important to the Heritage community, our efforts to make sure that we can deliver wireless internet access everywhere on our campuses. And we're also trying to get input through activities like this about where do we go with technology, bring your own device, digital textbooks, and the like. So there's also input on that in relationship to technology spending. And so that's there, and if you have any issues, and I know we're planning on coming over to Heritage to talk more specifically here, I think in a couple of weeks, but it's all there, and it's totally open for the public to see.
Dr. Cruz, anything you wanted to add on that?
Well, I just weigh in because I know I spent some time with Mrs. Cohen the other day, so I'd be happy to reach out to you specifically and send you the information regarding Heritage and help you kind of sift through that and make sense of that.
That sounds great. I was just wondering with the bond, if we were in this rotation or if we were in the second rotation.
We have 5 years worth of rotations, and Heritage is reflected in each year. So you'll see things in year 1, year 2, and moving out into the future. The prioritization of that was health and safety first, and then kind of organized in that fashion. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much for the question. Thank you, Dr. Santarelli and Dr. Cruz. I see some others making their way down as they're getting there. I am going to go to the back. We have Erin Dunzy, our media specialist, that is taking a question that is coming in over social media. Let's see if we have her microphone working back there.
Can you hear me, Danielle?
We can. Thank you.
Great, thanks. We got a question on Facebook, and there is a particular parent that is concerned about school closures and whether or not Dr. Santarelli, Dr. Cruz, or the board can address that pertaining to class sizes.
Thank you very much. Dr. Santarelli?
Well, I'll certainly start, and I'm sure others would like to weigh in. Before I do see Chief Black in the back. She's come in. So, Chief Black, thank you for being here. Chief of Police for Glendale. School closure is really a hot topic nationally, And as we've dealt with these difficult financial times, we've certainly had to make tough decisions about how we allocate resources, how we can become more efficient, and how we can drive more dollars into our classrooms. School closure is something that other districts, even in the immediate area, have gone through. And I know, hold tight to the belief that community schools are the cornerstone of this district. We, for a long time, developed the district around walking distance to our schools, and that was a belief that was held very strongly by previous governing boards and leaders in the district. Annually, we have a study session with our governing board, and we talk about utilization of facilities. So in other words, how many classrooms do we have on each of our campuses, and what are they being utilized for? And oftentimes there's a misnomer that we have a school that has 400 students, but it was built for 800. And when you take a closer look at that, we have lots of programming on some of those smaller campuses that address the very specific learning needs of different student populations. And in some of those programs, you'll see 6 or 8 kids in a class, but they're very needy students. And so the enrollment size of our schools doesn't tell the whole story. So annually, we have a study session with the board. We talk about capacity. We talk about future growth. We try to talk about the kinds of things that will impact the future of this district. School closure has been one that this board to this date has continued to say, let's keep monitoring, let's keep watching, and see. I can tell you that right now there is no plan to close any schools. I will also tell you that annually our board studies that, and we talk about how effectively we're using our facilities. So no plan right now to close any schools. I'll also tell you that if in fact that energy develops, it'll be widely communicated many, many months, if not a year in advance, and thoroughly studied with input from community and others. But currently there's no plan to close a school. I'm sure some of the board members would like to weigh in on that.
Governing board, anyone like to weigh in on that in particular?
Well, I'm just really pleased to hear Dr. Santarelli say that. I absolutely, wholeheartedly believe that our schools are the core of our communities, and that while the economy really kind of lessened the populations in some of our neighborhood, I'm always an optimist. I think that those neighborhoods will cycle through, and we'll have new families come in and fill them up. And in the meantime, I really have a lot of confidence in the intelligence and experience of the people who work for our school district, and there are ways to run campuses as smaller schools and to do it effectively and efficiently, and not take away from the community that has come to rely on and depend on their school as a learning environment for their kids and really as the cornerstone of their community.
Thank you, Mrs. Knecht. Mr. McCord.
School closures will happen over my cold, dead body.
Mr. Bullock.
I'm not going to try and top that. The nice thing about the way that education is progressing, and I'm a geek. I build computers and networks during the day, so I'm a little swayed towards digital and whatnot from our building globally competitive students who can master the world if they want, or they can work locally. It doesn't matter. The nice thing about where education is going, it provides opportunities that the campus is not necessarily indicative of where the education takes place, along with what Dr. Santarelli said. You may look at strictly financially. Chicago closed, 50 schools because of their budget problems. They had schools where there's actually nobody showing up. Peoria is in a wonderful position, although we have diverse demographics just in the city of Peoria. The schools that may look like ready for closing because the population drops so much or the neighborhood is not improving, what have you, opens itself up to digital learning campuses, marquee programs. There's a ways to constantly refresh your campuses to provide opportunities for new forward-reaching programs that we currently don't have, which is nice. I mean, we're talking about things that, Peoria High School, Old Main, and other campuses, marquee programs to prepare kids for future competition, whether it's local or national or global. So I agree, you don't want to close a school campus, but how do you repurpose part of a school campus to take on marquee programs and other opportunities, STEM, STEAM, stuff like that, that no longer mean that if you're in walking distance, great, but you know what, just down the street there's another school that's low on capacity, but now has just been retrofitted for a new STEM program, for example, a new art program, for example. So you start thinking a little bit differently, and you realize that a campus just becomes a source for a specific type of program if it's not completely full. So wide opportunities available to us before we can think about closing anything.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Mrs. Livingston?
I think Mr. Bullock hit it right on the head. There are so many school closures around the United States. It is easy to start panicking because you read about them daily. But there are different circumstances in each state that takes on these vast decisions, and they're not made lightly. I feel very hopeful and very proud that our district can sit here and say, no school closures. And if and when that would ever happen, and again, I'm not looking into the future or this crystal ball saying it's going to, but I'm looking at very informed decision makers at this table, willing to repurpose and retool each and every one of the campuses so we can keep the people first. Again, I understand your panic. It's in every district in this state and across the country, and it is stemming from the drive of the curriculum. Drive of the monies coming to the states, and of course the monies going in and out via industry. But don't fret. Don't fret.
Thank you, Mrs. Livingston. I'm not sure if you would like to weigh in, Mr. Borja. I know we do have some guests waiting, but.
Well, I don't really have much more to offer. They've pretty much said it. We've looked at ideas about repurposing schools if we need to. We're building a new elementary school in the north part of the district, and I see the need in the future 5 or 6 years for a new high school up in the Vistancia area. We don't have the money for that right now. That we would have to have a bond election. But the district is growing, and it's growing in the north part. There could be some issues in the south part in the future, but like my other board members said, nobody here sitting at this table has got any plan to close the school right now.
Thank you, Mr. Borja, and to all of our board members for weighing in on that. Thank you so much for all of you who are waiting patiently to step up to the mic. I think since we're on this side last time, if you don't mind, we'll go over to this side, and just if you would just keep your question brief for us, we'd be happy to respond. If you'd begin with your name, please.
My name is Tina Hills, and I have a son that goes to Heritage, sixth grade. And my concern is he comes home, I think 2 days ago, and says, we're losing a teacher in 6th grade. Class sizes are increasing. When are parents told? What is the communication? What is the communication with that?
Very good question. Dr. Santarelli or Dr. Cruz, would you like to weigh in?
Thanks, Daniel. I'd be happy to weigh in on that. Parents are told before that move ever happens. So we've been trying to really make a smooth transition. There's a lot to be considered when you collapse a class. It's not ever something that we enjoy doing. Certainly our class sizes are driven by policy. We have some minimums and maximums that we work with within policy, and we follow those guidelines to help us make those decisions. We want to make smooth transitions for both students and for the teacher. It's a very difficult decision to have to do that. So certainly we are making those finalizations so that parents know that decision and can also work with their school principal.
So is the decision not final?
The decision is final.
So
yes.
My question again was, when do you tell the parents? You said you tell beforehand.
Decision was just finalized. Decision was just finalized.
But you just said you tell parents before the decision is finalized. Coming from my son, you didn't tell the parents.
And I apologize for that. I apologize for that. We are making plans to make that happen, and I apologize for not making sure that you knew ahead of time.
Thank you. Pam, we'll go to you.
Sure. My name is Jamie Romero. My daughter was at Cotton Bowl in the gifted program, and then I received the notice that you guys are cutting the gifted or scaling it back. So I've moved her to Heritage for the STEM program. So, it's a big uprooting in her life, having to make all new friends. I'm driving tremendous distance every day, and I worry that this is being cut as well. I feel like the district doesn't put any value on the gifted program. I kind of want to see where you're coming from Where do you guys value it? What's the future for the gifted, the sustainability with the budget cuts always going towards those gifted?
Very good question. Dr. Santarelli?
Certainly, I'd be happy to weigh in on that as well. Certainly, we value our gifted program and our gifted students. We still do have a gifted program. It has taken on somewhat of a different flavor this year. With the cluster model, we have worked with a pull-out model for many, many years. And so looking at an economy of scale and also student achievement and what we think will work best for kids, we have moved to a cluster model this year. And I will weigh in on your other question of programs being cut. We're not really cutting programs. We still have a gifted program. We still have a STEM program. There's not any plans to cut any of those programs at this time.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to move schools and make her, if it's going to be cut in the near future.
Excellent question.
Understandable.
And if I could, I'd just like to weigh in too on that piece, and it's kind of related to the previous question. Several years ago, we really had some involved discussion and input from our community about this whole closure, and there are portions of our district that are declining. We have hyper growth in other portions, and so the discussion was, what do we do about it? Right. And there was really good discussion about, and kind of to the point that some of the board members made, how can we make specialty programs within the district that are attractive to parents from without and even from neighboring communities, henceforth the 11 different signature programs. And there's been good support for that, and I expect that will continue. I know that any time you go through a change with staff, that's tough when you have to, collapse a class, and I understand the dynamics of that, but certainly don't interpret that as not support for the signature, and this whole notion of science, technology, engineering, and math in Heritage's case is right up, all of the work we're doing to prepare kids for an ever-changing future. And we're looking forward to sitting down with your community here in September to talk more about that. But we have world language programs, and we just have a vast array of things, arts. So the signature has been very successful, and I believe that's something that we're going to continue to support and evolve and even improve.
Mrs. Connect.
Yeah, I wanted to say making those changes to the gifted program was a very difficult decision for this board to make. Because the public outcry was quite loud. But that program's not alone. We've had to make changes to quite a few of the other programs that we know are good for kids. And that's very painful for us. And it's a result of an incredible lack of funding. Less funding that we've received over the last few years. And I wonder, Dr. Santarelli or Dr. Cruz, if you could illustrate the specifics on really what kind of budgetary constraints we've been under in the last few years.
I'll do it. I'd be glad to, Ms. Connect, and certainly all of you are aware. You're here because you've been involved in your schools in this district, so some of this I'm sure you've heard of. But we have experienced nearly a 25% reduction in funding since 2008, 2009. And we weren't necessarily funded at the top of the heap then. So it has been challenging, and I can tell you wholeheartedly that everybody sitting up here and all of the employees in this building and throughout the district, we would love to have class sizes at 18 and 20. We'd love to be able to offer many of the things that we've had to modify. It comes down to dollars and cents and how we can direct those. One of the other things that is often a misnomer is, well, you've got all this administrative overhead and you're not spending money the way you should. We benchmark not only our student growth and our academic achievement and how well our students do after they leave us, we also benchmark how we spend our money in relationship to high-performing systems across the state of Arizona. And I can tell you that that's something that's important to this board and certainly important to me, and we're going to continue to do that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Livingston.
As being an outsider looking in during the day and being on the board at night, once I put on my cape, I can honestly say to you, I hear from all over the state that some of your signature programs are pulling from other districts all over the state, whether it's coming from the high school to the younger grades. People are coming to these programs. Not that some of these other programs aren't available, but some of them are not at all. Some of your high school programs are absolutely amazing in what you offer. I will say this too, as far as those people in the room, it would be great to have 18 kids. I personally wouldn't know what to do with 18. But if you have the top-notch teachers that I know that we're recruiting in Peoria, those teachers can teach 18 and 30 with their hands tied behind their back. So I want to assure you, if you have a quality teacher in your room, which we are only standing for the top and the top programs, that you will get more students coming into your district. You will have better teachers coming into your classrooms. And hopefully then, with the size growing, then class size can lessen. It all becomes a numbers game. But quality teachers equals quality education.
Thank you, Mrs. Livingston. Thank you to each of you for weighing in. Thank you very much for the question. We are over our time, but we do have someone who has been waiting patiently who hasn't had the opportunity to speak yet. So I am going to go to you. I'll just ask that you please be brief since we're over our time.
I have one little one, I promise.
Thank you.
Okay, so really I have one little one. Good evening. He's 4 years old, and he's in the COOP program here at Centennial High School. And as much as I love Centennial because this is my old school, I really wanted to put him in a preschool program. However, as of this week, I called Frontier. I called the Marshall Ranch, and they told me they have 30 kids on the wait list for one full day school. And they have more than 10 kids on each school. So as you said, we're not shutting down schools, and I know that on campuses there are open classrooms. Why aren't we putting more kids in our schools when I know that preschool pays around $600 a month that these parents pay to put their child in a preschool program in our district? Why aren't there more classrooms being opened up?
Wonderful question. Dr. Cruz.
Mrs. Seha, that is a great problem to have, isn't it? Certainly we are looking at those numbers. There are different things that we have to do to get those classrooms ready. I'm sure you know that those classrooms fall under special licensure, special furniture, etc., specially certified teachers that have to go in those classrooms. So certainly we are looking at those and looking for the next special spots to put those wonderful 4-year-olds in our classrooms. Thank you for bringing that forth.
Thank you for that question. Thank you to all of you to participate. I know you've been waiting, so we will have someone come over and address your question with you just immediately following it. I really appreciate your patience. A very special thank you to those of you who were online participating. Before we conclude for the evening, there's just one additional guest in the room that we didn't have an opportunity to introduce earlier, and that is our new Chief Financial Officer for the district, Mr. Ken Hicks. Mr. Hicks, if you'd stand and wave for us. Thank you. Welcome. And he joins us officially beginning next week. And so I know all of those financial concerns and questions and things that Dr. Santarelli was able to touch on, he'll be hard at work addressing many of those for us beginning next week. Well, we had a wealth of questions that we didn't even get to tap into from social media, so we'll be sure to be responding to those and posting all of that information for you. We'll also be archiving everything from tonight so that you can be sure to go back to any of it, anything that you may have missed. I want to thank you so very much for giving up your evening to be here and to participate. We certainly do appreciate it. A very special thank you to our governing board, Dr. Cruz, Dr. Santarelli, also for your participation this evening. It's very important. With that, I will dismiss you for the evening and tell you to drive safely. There's some wet roads out there. Have a great rest of the night.